What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling, and it is that time of the year. It's the end of the year, and one of the videos that you guys seem to like a lot every single year when I do them is the company grades video. So this is our company grades. We're going to do company grades for the companies that I watched at least 6 months or more worth of content of this year. So it's not going to be every single wrestling company. Obviously, it's just the ones that I watch, because how could I have an opinion about stuff that I did not watch? But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys that this being the YouTubes, they like the like button, they like the subscribe button, they like the notification bell. So if you want to take a Rainmaker and hit that notification bell, the like button, all that stuff, make it turn black and blue, definitely appreciate it. It definitely helps out the channel. But let's get into this now. We have got the company grades. We're going to start with the big dogs this year. We're going to start with WWE. What did I think of World Wrestling Entertainment in the year 2023? Well, following 2022, which was a landmark year where they got just out of nowhere, they just started getting better. It just something just flipped. A lot of it can be attributed to Vince having to step down, being forced out. A lot of it can be contributed to Triple H. But I do also think that there is a contribution made from the wrestling community itself. And I think a lot of it had to do with that most of the 2010s was very much focused on, as far as the core pro wrestling fan base, it was very focused on in-ring storytelling and in-ring work. But I think you reach a plateau where you've seen how many Canadian destroyers before you're kind of like, all right, well, you got to show me something else. So now I think the mood of the community has flipped back to more of the verbal storytelling, the promos, the setups, the backstage stuff. And when it comes to that, that's WWE's wheelhouse. And since Triple H took over, starting with the Bloodline feud from last year, and even extending the stuff they're doing with Judgment Day, stuff they're doing with Cody, some of the stuff they may be doing in the future with CM Punk, I think the change has come in the community, that they kind of want to see. Well, we've seen a lot of in-ring work. We've seen the New Japan, we've seen the MLW, we've seen the Indie, we've seen the AEW. Let's go. We've seen enough of that. Let's see something else on the other side of it, the more sports entertainment side. And Triple H is doing a bang-up job, and everybody in WWE is doing a bang-up job of presenting this. So on that alone, and just the number of feuds, you add in the fact that they actually had a lot of great in-ring work this year. One of my favorite matches this year, and we'll get into this in the Match of the Year video later on this week, that match at WrestleMania with Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Gunther. I mean, that's one of the best matches in all of wrestling. Cody's match with Roman until the end was one of the best matches. Roman's match with Sami Zayn, that atmosphere at Elimination Chamber was through the roof. They did kind of fall off a little bit over the summertime, where things seem to kind of be cooling down a lot. But then, of course, now the resurgence of a lot of guys coming back. Randy Orton's back, CM Punk, and his big jump from AEW to WWE. Again, you'd have to say 2023 was as much, if not maybe more, of a banger year for WWE than it was in the prior years before 2022. That being said, I'm going to have to give WWE a B this year. The only reason it's probably not an A is because I did try, and this is just a personal, of course, obviously, because this is my personal list of what I feel. But personally for me, the reason it didn't get an A is because they were not able to win me back to watching the weekly shows again. I spent decades really watching weekly WWE television, and I dropped off, I don't even know how many years it's been now since I stopped watching Raw and SmackDown every single week. And even with the improvements on the clips I see on YouTube, and when I watch the pay-per-views or the premium live events or whatever they call them, those have been good to great, and some of them have been just average. But it wasn't enough for me when I tried to tune in to Raw. When I tried to tune in SmackDown, the show lost my attention after like 20-30 minutes. So that's the only reason it doesn't get an A. If they could have gotten me back to watching SmackDown and Raw every single week, they would have gotten an A. But I'm going to give WWE a B for the year 2023. Let's move over to what has traditionally been for the last 10 years my favorite wrestling promotion, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, New Japan still, they got hit by the pandemic and by bad booking very hard at the same time. It's like both of them came up at the same time. And before the pandemic, in fact, right up until the last event, which I think was the New Beginning 2020, with Kenta challenged Naito for the IWGP Unified Championship at the time, That show was a really good show. It still felt like New Japan was still cooking. And then House of Torture, Evil's run, this lukewarm run with Sonata. We lead into 2023. Again, some great highlights in 2023. Okada's vendetta against Kiyomiya in particular, and then even extended out amongst all the young up-and-coming wrestlers like Shota Umino and Ren Narita. The first half of the year, Okada being having a feud against the young guys, being the grumpy old man on the porch. That was really cool, and the crossovers were really cool. We got into Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door season, again, not the best booked lead up to that, and I think it's just the logistics behind it after seeing 2 years of this, but we did get some great crossover matches with All Elite Wrestling. But as far as New Japan in particular, we saw Will Ospreay continue his dominance. We saw Kazuchika Okada win the championship back, but then lose it to Sonata, who they were trying to push. And this is really where New Japan 2023 comes down and suffers for me. The two stars that they were trying to get to replace, much as they did with Kenny Omega and Tetsuya Naito back in 2016 after AJ and Nakamura left, much as they did with Jay White, much as they've done with Will Ospreay, much as they've done with Shingo Takagi. Of a lot of guys they try to bring in and put them into those main event slots, and most of the time over the last 10 years it's worked. 2023, it didn't work out so well. Sonata's run as being the main event guy, their push to him to the main event, not only was hampered somewhat by just the logistics around it, but it was hampered by the booking. They booked this man to be a main event star, put the world title on him, had him win the New Japan Cup, had him beat Okada, and then his first defense is against a returning young lion. They put him into G1 in a block that's that's pretty much full of young lions and Chase Owens. So, and he, of course, ran the block, which, you know, would have been impressive if the block was not just young lions and Chase Owens. And then he gets into the playoffs and gets dusted in the first round by Evil. Your world champion ain't looking very strong. He goes to Forbidden Door. He defends the IWGP Championship against Jack Perry, who pretty much is just, you know, a year shy of being a young lion in AEW in himself. So Sonata has not been built up as a credible world champion this year. And on the other side of that, you had David Finlay, who had to take over for Jay White, who Jay White left New Japan, moved over to AEW. And David Finlay was supposed to take over that spot as the Rebel Club. They gave him a gang of talented, really, I cannot stress this enough, the War Dogs. I think that quartet, they have a lot of potential. All four of those guys, I could see being major stars in wrestling over the next 10 years. Every single one of them. Gabe Kidd is the big standout. So they're the ones who are backing Finlay, but Finlay really isn't part of them. He's kind of like their leader separate from them. And I think that's going to play out in storylines in the future in New Japan, especially over the next year or two. Because I fully expect, and I think a lot of us hope and expect, that Gabe Kidd will take over as the leader of Bullet Club within the next year or two. And I feel bad for saying that because David Finlay tries his ass off, but I don't think that the role that he is in fits the person that he is. I don't think that's him. I think that's him playing a character that he's not comfortable with playing. I think he needs to, there's something that has to happen with him. But the point is, those are the things I'm hanging my hat on as judging New Japan in 2023. Still got great matches. Still got some pretty interesting storylines throughout the year. The G1 was amazing. Wrestle Kingdom was great. Some of the other events, not so much. Dominion wasn't as great this year, but overall was a decent year for New Japan. But the fact that the two main event pushes they had this year did not work out, and the fact that they lost not only Jay White, but Will Ospreay in the same year, and now there are rumors that they may even be losing Kazuchika Okada, and that their roster is aging, and that they also lost Katsuyori Shibata. They lost New Japan Strong. That's no longer a show. There's a lot. They look like the junior partner in their partnership with AEW. It has not been a good year for New Japan Pro Wrestling. The last glimmer of hope, however, is the fact that Hiroshi Tanahashi at the end of the year has taken over as president and the spokesman for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I expect Tanahashi, who's always more Japan first, to probably focus on, if he has any say in it, which I would assume as the president, that he wants to probably focus more on growing Japanese stars instead of growing foreign stars? Why grow foreign stars when you grow, you know, if you grow them and they get popular, they're going to sign with AEW or WWE in, you know, the next 2 years. So why put that investment into guys who are going to leave when you can put investment into your homegrown talent and once again have New Japan produce homegrown talent like Naito, like Okada, like Tanahashi, like all the legends from the past. I think Tanahashi is going to be much more focused on that, which bodes well for the Reo Three Musketeers, bodes well for other guys in there like Uemura, the young lions that are going to be coming back from Excursion in 2024, maybe even for Hikuleo. There's still a lot of questions about the remaining foreigners in New Japan, Zack Sabre Jr., El Phantasmo, Tama Tonga. How much longer is it going to be until they wind up going to WWE or AEW? So overall, for New Japan Pro Wrestling, I'm going to give them a C for 2023. Not their best year. They're still going through what has now been a 4-year transition period from what they were in late 2019, early 2020, and now we're heading into 2024, and they still have not fully recovered. Plus, they lost Kevin Kelly too, so there you go. Billy Corgan's NWA, which I don't talk about a lot on the channel, but I have watched a lot of it, especially earlier this year, and then over the summer I was watching a lot of Billy Corgan's NWA, and they've had a lot of issues, and I'm going to just probably shorten this down because I can't get into all the feuds and rivalries. What I saw, some of the stuff I liked, some of the stuff bored the crap out of me. But the highlights were big highlights. The one big thing is that the rumored TV deal that may have been scuttled because they did a cocaine angle on their pay-per-view. I like that they brought back the Crockett Cup. That was fun to watch. But at the end of the day, Billy Corgan's NWA is having an identity crisis. It's having a hard time, I think, finding where it fits in the current Western wrestling landscape. It is a retro old school feel, but you're getting a lot of that from some of the other companies too. So what the NWA's identity is going to be going forward, I'm going to be curious to see, and to see if they can establish themselves, because it's really a fight for third between them and Impact and MLW. So we'll have to see how well that goes. So I will give Billy Corgan's NWA a C for 2023. Some good stuff, but I think some of the bad stuff really overshadowed the good stuff, because most of the time when you heard about the NWA in the wrestling community, it was usually about something bad. So there you go. I can't grade MLW or Impact this year because I did not watch enough of them. So I will leave that up to you guys in the comment box below. Give me your grades on Impact Wrestling and give me your grades on MLW in the comment box below. And if you have anything about Lucha Libre Wrestling or any other wrestling company, really, leave me your grades for the other companies, Stardom, etc., in the comment box below. The last company I'm going to talk about is All Elite Wrestling, AEW. Another up and down year for them. 2022 was an up and down year, and 2023 was an up and down year. Of course, the biggest news of the year, CM Punk and the Elite came back, and then CM Punk was back for a couple of months before he got fired. And the big problem at Wembley Stadium, and I've chronicled this before, how crazy it is at the biggest show, right before the biggest show, at the start of the biggest show that the company has ever had, the biggest show that any wrestling company that was not titled WWE has had in wrestling since the 90s. And right before they go on the air, CM Punk's got a problem with Jack Perry because Jack Perry acts like a baby and says something stupid in the pre-show, and then CM Punk can't let it go and be about business. You're about to, open the biggest show, a big monumental show for the company and for pro wrestling in general, and you're more concerned about the fact that some guy said something that 99% of the audience won't even know what it means, and you're upset about it and get in a fight. And then God knows, and we still don't know the full story. There's videotape of it somewhere. There's a lot of NDAs that were signed about the incident. But as far as the AEW audience is concerned, I gotta say their fan base still holding around 800,000 to 900,000 views for Dynamite. Still trying to get Collision around 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 views every single Saturday. I think as far as a number 2 brand, I think they're doing exactly what they should be doing. I think they're still doing better than what was originally projected. Because remember, back in 2019, Warner Discovery thought they were going to get about 400 to 500,000 views for Dynamite, and they more than doubled that several times over. So the Continental Classic was a great idea this year. They did have a little bit too many tournaments. They have scaled that back with just having the Continental Classic over the last month, so it doesn't feel like there's a new tournament every other week in AEW like it did for a lot of 2022 and early 2023. Some of the best matches in wrestling, clear hands down, have been in AEW. Everything from the Ospreay Omega stuff. You had that tremendous tag team series between Bullet Club Gold and FTR to kick off Collision. You had this great match with Bryan Danielson and MJF, that Iron Man match. You had the match with Adam Cole and MJF at All In that was outstanding. You had the match with Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson at All Out that was outstanding. I mean, again and again, I mean, Kenny Omega and MJF. I mean, you've had, you want to talk about banger after banger. The company with the most bangers this year, I'd have to say, as far as in-ring is concerned, was AEW. So they definitely get points for that. But overall, I think they're still struggling to try to find what a number 2 brand means in the year 2024, 2025, 2026 in Western wrestling. Can there be a secondary brand? And will the wrestling community allow there to be one? A lot of the wrestling community, especially the influencer community, is really coming down hard on AEW. Is AEW going to be afforded the same amount of leeway for when they're not great or when they're even bad that WWE was allowed for years and years of their product not hitting it with the fans? Is AEW going to get the same leeway? We'll have to see. Time will tell. But 2024, I don't know what's coming for AEW. They've got a lot of new signings. Obviously, Will Ospreay is going over there. We might even have Kazuchika Okada. God knows who else. I do expect that there, Adam Copeland is there now. You got guys like Christian Cage who are banging it out. You got Bullet Club Gold, which is doing a great job. MJF doing a great job. Swerve Strickland has come up. Adam Page has probably finally found his voice again in AEW. You have problems, some of the older wrestlers. Sting is going to be retiring soon. Jericho, how many more years is he going to go? Kenny Omega's body is breaking down on him as we speak. You're going to have some of these legacy AEW characters. They're getting into the phase now where some of those guys, those original day one guys, are going to be retiring. But overall, my grade C for All Elite Wrestling in 2024. So while it seems like it's average across the board with everybody except WWE, I know I'm going to get flack for that, but it has been that kind of year. There wasn't any company that really, even with WWE, like I said, I still can't watch their weekly shows. So for me personally, no company really was like excellent this year. They all had really big moments and really awesome things that happened, but consistency, I think, across the board, there was no consistency. There was no consistency with NWA and its promotion. There was no consistency with AEW and its storytelling and its business management of its talent. Definitely was no consistency there. With New Japan, there was no consistency with them building new stars and what direction they were going, outside of they were just getting younger. And with WWE, there was no consistency in the quality, I would say, as far as, yeah, the pay-per-views and the premium live events and the little clips here and there are great, but then there's the other 2 hours of the show that it's still that WWE that fans like myself who may be a little bit old school or like something a little less overproduced, that it just feels too damn artificial. So, but that's my views on it. I want to know what you guys think. What were your choices? What are your company grades for any company, not just the ones I included, any other wrestling company? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, I will see you as we close out 2023 here on the Rantin' Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.